Yeah, so Venom Life, what that is it's basically a brand, and we use it for apparel and some other items that we're doing. But it's a brand that we're hoping is going to increase awareness as to what Venom, or what role Venom plays in everybody's lives daily. I mean, anybody from someone that's on an ACE inhibitor for high blood pressure to the person that is getting treatment for a diabetes problem with exenatide from Gila Monster Venom. And then also to the need for venom to produce antivenom, which is a big problem right now, getting enough or getting the right antivenoms in Africa.
So really trying to focus on the positives of venom and not just a negative life-taking thing. I mean, Venom Life is, for us, venom is life because we live, we love and live venom. But the positives that come with
that symbiotic relationship that you don't even think about.
There's a lot of positives that come from venom as well. And then after the antivenom and 10% of all sales go to the Snakebite Foundation. And then from there, Jordan takes over.
Our role, we basically tackle the issue of snakebite in the developing world, where most of these deaths and disabilities occur. And we hit it from a bunch of different angles. So we look at it from research perspective, developing new antivenoms, developing new treatments, developing strategies for getting patients to care faster or antivenom to patients faster, things like this. We do training of medical providers and local villagers, and then we also do treatment. So we'll go into a place, establish a snakebite center, treat patients, train other doctors at the bedside, doctors, nurses at the bedside, basically give them the expertise to manage these cases. And so what Chris and Brent have done for us is, they've pledged 10% of all their sales to supporting our organization, which is huge. One thing about us is we have a pretty low footprint. We don't get paid for what we do. We go to places where the cost of living is very cheap. So even a few $100s allows us to buy, in some cases, 10 vials of antivenom for a patient, and or for really, it's enough to treat generally 3 to 5 patients.
There's no like city block storage facilities or laboratories or anything like that.
You don't have the pharmacy or the pharmaceutical reps like we have here to get Crofab.
Right.
So
totally. And yeah, it's the Venom Life. The sort of symbolism is the reason we chose Asclepius as our name is that's the snake on the staff of medicine. And so, for Chris and I as medics, cardiac issues, some of the drugs that we use are derived, like Chris was saying, from snakes. And so so we see we see the hazard of snakebite, but then also you've got snakes as a symbol of medicine, as a symbol of healing, and the treatment for the bite comes from the snake itself. So there's sort of a cyclical thing, I think, in both of our organizations, and we're pretty tightly tied together through their support, which we're very grateful for.
For the Snakebite Foundation, I think the next big initiative push is going to be the GoFundMe fundraiser, so that we can have people go and learn more about it. They can watch videos, they can donate, and even share it to other people who may be interested in helping, because it's literally, what are the numbers? We're talking $8,000 to $10,000 a vial here if you're bit in the United States. Average bite is $175,000 to $225,000 in the U.S. There in Benin, about 6 years ago, Jordan was able to save a 7-year-old kid's life for $200 and send him home with a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let me put it to you this way: 327.2 million people in the United States. If every single person took a penny, cut it into 3 equal pieces, and donated 1/3 of a penny, if everybody did that, we'd have $981,000. If only 10% of the population donated, and they only donated 1 dime, only 10% donated 1 dime, would give us $3.2 million.
And keep this in mind.
We're not
too.
asking for a lot.
Yeah, and keep this in mind that even though they do have donations and we give them money, still not enough. I mean, these guys are putting money in their own pockets. They're buying, all their own food. They're buying plane tickets. They're buying medical supplies when they don't have the money to cover it. So they're taking care of that.
And even if it was enough for the next trip,
let's do some other trip.
The second we get back, or the second they leave, we're back at zero.
Yeah, I mean, the guy talked today. There was 500 snake bites in a month. at one of these clinics. That's in one area.
They don't take a vacation, do they?
No, it's a very needed thing.
Yeah. And the numbers are always higher than what you hear they are before you get there too. Like Red Cross went out and did a survey in Bringo County before we got there, and they told the governor
Which is in Kenya.
Yeah, in Kenya. And this is last month, and they told the governor there's 221 snake bites in Bringo County last year. First place I go, do an assessment and a training, I find out there's on average 300 to 500 bites a month there. So, their numbers are wildly off. And then that also just includes the patients that make it to the treatment. A lot of them die in the field. They die before they ever make it there. They go to the witch doctor. They never, or they get to a clinic and maybe they get treatment, maybe they don't, but the public health data isn't, there's no good infrastructure for public health stuff in lots of these places. So
The Congo?
Yeah.
Zero data out of the entire Congo.
Right.
I mean, keep that in mind when we're talking these world health numbers.
Yeah, I mean, WHO estimates on their high-end estimate is 138,000 deaths and around 500,000 disabilities worldwide every year. I think realistically, nothing for Congo, nothing for most of Sudan, for basically all of Central Africa is just, and a lot of West Africa, we just really have no clue.
We saw the same thing in India.
Yeah.
And just in our talks today.
Yeah, and the Indian thing came out of the million deaths study, where they trained people to go out to villages and interview people at a village level and say, what were the causes of death in your village in the last year or whatever it was. Before that, they had really no idea how bad the problem was. It wasn't until they sent people out to the village level who were trained to collect data, basically said, let's figure out every, I think they basically said, let's survey all these places and find out what the last million deaths were, in India or whatever it was. And through that, they learned that there's 50,000 deaths a year from snakebite in India. And before then, they thought it was like a couple thousand. So how many other places worldwide is that
The case.
the case, and we're just waiting on the million death study to occur there. And probably it's a very, very prevalent issue. I mean, we already know it's a prevalent issue, but it's probably dramatically worse than we think in most of these places.
And when we talk to people about the venom thing, they say, what do you do for a living? Oh, I work with venom, work with venomous snakes, venom expert, whatever people say in our field, they're like, oh, that's really cool. But then when we tell people what we do about Venom Life and the donations, which go perfect segue into the Snakebite Foundation, and then what the Snakebite Foundation is doing, we just see people light up they're so blown away by the numbers. And I think
they don't know the information.
if we could just, that's the thing, is just awareness. If we could just let more people know what these numbers are, and I'm going to say accurate numbers even though they're all estimates.
Yeah.
But if we could give them the real numbers that we know or estimate, I think that we could have a real impact and really help save a lot of limbs and lives everywhere in the world.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about snakebite too is you do emergency medicine for a while, you get kind of jaded you see the same stuff over and over again, and the outcomes are poor because people aren't taking care of themselves, and maybe cardiac arrest, it's a very low save rate for cardiac arrest, and even if you get somebody back, the amount of people that walk out of the hospital, what's the neurological function recovery rate is very little. And so then you take something like snakebite, and one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was starting out as a snakebite clinician was that unlike almost anything else in medicine, snakebite, up to seemingly the last moments before death, you can treat that patient and they stand a very good chance of getting better. So you can have someone who's literally circling the drain. They are
within hours of
well,
death.
minutes even. I mean, like kids, when we treat kids, it's a nightmare when you have a shocky kid because their systems are better at compensating. So they're normal,
Crash.
then they crash, and then you're just scrambling and you're already on your back foot racing the clock. It's hard to get them back. And I can just one example, I got called to the pediatric ward in the middle of the night for a 7-year-old boy. He's carried in, he's lolling his head around, I'm trying to get a line on him. All of a sudden his skin goes ice cold and his pulse disappears, his radial pulse goes, and he goes unresponsive on me, and you can just feel his, basically he's going into shock, and his pulse is lost here, and I have it here, and then that goes, and he's just rapidly crashing. And I got a line going, I got antivenom, I pushed it on board, gave him a bag of blood, 1 blood transfusion, 1 unit of blood, some basic pain medicine. I think I gave him Tylenol and Tramadol some fluids, and you know, he walked out of the hospital a couple days later with a smile on his face, full recovery. So it's like you get these amazing saves where you literally are pulling people back from the brink for, you know, virtually no cost.
But that's what we're able to do for little money.
Yeah. And it's I mean, snakebite, you could argue that snakebite treatment should be a fundamental human right. No one's asking for, it's not like the bites that we get a lot of the time in the US, where there's plenty of bites that are accidental, but there's plenty that aren't. But it's very rare that you go to Africa and you see some dude who's bit because he
was messing with
the snake, you know, not at least.
Hold my beer, watch this.
Right. You know, maybe they're trying to kill it, you know, because it's in the field, but it's never a like we were drunk playing with the snake type thing.
VenomLifeGear.com, and if you want to purchase something from us, 10% of it, we go 10% of the sale, not the proceeds, not our profits. 10% of the entire sale go to the Asclepius Snakebite Foundation, or you can go to snakebite.org and give a direct donation to them.
And then we also have obviously all the social media. Our big ones are Instagram and Facebook, which we're at Venom Life Gear on both.
And if you're not following us, please follow us. We need those numbers badly. Yeah.
At Snakebite Foundation.
Yeah,
that's it. Help us spread the word, because even if you guys don't have $3, $5, $10 for a direct donation, which you can also get to from our website. There's like 5 links from Venom Life Gear to go straight to the Snakebite Foundation website. But even if you don't, you know, if just by passing the information along, letting somebody else know about it, they might have an extra 10 or 15 bucks, even if you don't, and we don't judge you either way. So just help us spread the word. That's really what it's about right now, is the gospel.
Yeah, there's a great video on the snakebite.org website,
yeah.
and our website, that talks about the vicious and virtuous cycle of what we're trying to do. And that really, if you watch that, it really, you know, hits home as to what's going on over there.
About 4 minutes long, and it'll change your life. So allow that 4 minutes to affect you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, check us out at snakebitefoundation.org. Check these guys out at venomlifegear.com. Yeah.
Nailed it.
And
He visits the site a lot.
yeah, well, I wasn't sure if it's .com. I'm burned.
No, it's
but no, I mean, just to, as the director of the foundation, I have to say, like, the support from Venom Life Gear is it's huge for us, you know, because we are still a small organization, and these guys have been out there. You know, Brent's part of our team officially right now. I think I'm gonna try and snag Chris as well. 30-year paramedic here and a herpetologist. That's a skill set we can certainly use. So, you know, they're doing a lot of amazing work to support, you know, us, just, you know, getting the word out, raising funds, all of this stuff. It's a small team. It takes a lot of work. There's a huge problem, and yeah, you know, any help is.
We needed all of it.
Yeah, so that's what I got.